Section 4, homes and households. So first off, just notice this background. We have these people gathering. We have dogs. We have food. That's a lute. It's kind of like a guitar. It's a very open, beautiful setting. This wasn't the life for all people in medieval Europe. This would be probably for a more wealthier family. Medieval towns were typically small and crowded. They were narrow and could be held up to 4 stories high. That's the different buildings. Most of the houses were made of wood and would lean so much that they touched the street. Rich and poor lived in quite different households. In poor neighborhoods, several families might occupy a single house with only one room in which they cooked, ate, and slept. In general, people worked where they lived. If a father or mother was a weaver, for example, they would loom in their home. However, here, wealthy merchants, remember the merchants from the previous section, they often lived in splendid homes. The first level might be given over to a business, including offices and storerooms. The family's living quarters might be on the second level, complete with a solar, a space where the family gathered to eat and talk. An upper level might even house servants and apprentices. So you can see here, this would be an example of, different apartments, if you will, for poorer people. And this is an example of maybe an entire home for a wealthier merchant. Up top is where people lived. Below is where their business might be. So even for wealthy families, life was not always comfortable compared with to life today. With fireplaces, the main source of heat and light, rooms were cold, smoky, and dim. Most windows were small and covered with oiled parchment instead of glass, so little sunlight came through. Glass is kind of seen as a luxury. Even though there are glass blowers and stained glass windows, not every home would be made with glass. But you can't have big open windows because when there's weather changes, it won't work out. Growing up in a medieval town wasn't easy either. About half of all children died before they became adults. And those who did survive began preparing for their adult roles around the age of 7. Some boys and few girls attended school, where they learned to read and write. So not everyone did. It was kind of a privilege. Children from wealthier families might learn to paint and to play music on a lute. That's that stringed instrument. Other children began working as apprentices. In general, people of the Middle Ages believed in an orderly society in which everyone knew their place. Most boys grew up to do the same work as their fathers. So if their father was a stonemason, they would learn to be a stonemason. If their father was a cobbler, they'd become a cobbler as well. Some girls trained for a craft, but most married young, usually around the age of 15, and were soon raising children of their own. So that means, ladies, you would be married very shortly from the age you are now and would have a child shortly after that. For many girls, their education was at home, where they learned cooking, cloth making, and other skills necessary to care for a home and family. So in this picture, just kind of showing people working together, picking some grapes, very likely for wine, another type of business here, if you will. But people generally worked within their family. And that is the end of section 4.